October 22nd, you're back in action, UFC 280 in Abu Dhabi. Thoughts on flying across the ocean, man, to compete in the desert?
It'll be an experience. It'll be the longest flight I've ever taken, longest travel. But I'm excited. You got to push yourself, got to put yourself in these kind of situations. So I'm excited to test myself and see how I fare.
For sure, man. And one thing good about flying over there to compete is there's no income tax. How happy are you about that?
That's huge. any kind of money break I can get, I'll take. So
Yeah. That's what all the other, you remember during the pandemic when it was crazy, Fight Island was going on. All the fighters hated flying there, but they were like, hey, it's worth it if you're gonna get the show and the win and you don't have to pay any taxes on
yeah,
it. So it's a bright spot, right?
yeah, I'll take that all day.
It looks like you'll be fighting either really late at night or like really early in the morning. How have you adjusted to that?
Yeah, so I think with the time difference, I might be in my spot on the card. I might be fighting around like 11, maybe 10:30 ish. So we've been trying to get like the hardest practice done in the morning. So I'll have my hard sparring, hard wrestling, hard jujitsu before noon, just to get my body ready for that.
How has it been adjusting to that, or has your schedule always been like that in training camp?
I mean, I always train in the morning. I always train in the evening. So I think the biggest thing will be getting the sleep down. A couple of days before, I'm going to see if I can switch my sleep cycle and kind of get a head start on that one.
Have you done that before, changing up your sleep cycle?
Um, not to this extent. No. So it'll definitely be an experience. But it'll be all right. I'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
for sure, man. You're a professional. Professionals
Yeah,
do professional things, right? And
got a whole.
yeah, yeah, with sleep, man, I feel like we never talk about sleep. Like as a fighter, how much is sleep important for, like, for you as as an athlete?
That's actually one of my problems. I always, you know, I wake up so early and I don't allow myself to get that deep sleep because my mind's always racing. And that's one of the things my coaches have been trying to tell me, like, dude, you need sleep. We know you love to train. We know you love, you'll be in every day. But I've been really trying to prioritize sleep a lot more now, especially getting older. I'm 30. I can't just, I got to rest up.
Yeah, 30 is the new 20. That's what they say, right? Yeah. Now, so you go from your debut against Jacob Malkoun to Armen Petrosyan, right? Those are two totally different styles. What do you see in this matchup? How do you see the matchup?
This matchup will be fun. I'm really excited about this one. We both are strikers. On paper, he might have the better uh resume. But I think I may get him. I may edge him out with speed, explosion, and strength. So it's fun. It's gonna be who can implement their game plan, who can stay tough, and who evolved. Because both of us kind of showed that our grappling was a little bit lacking in our last fights. So it'll be interesting to see.
You mentioned the resume, and it's some guys will have a flashier resume in certain aspects of MMA, but it's MMA.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
different game, right? Like explain that. So for some people that are not educated.
Yeah, so you see, we got a lot of boxers or Muay Thai guys. In the case of my guy, coming over, and people get scared of that. They they kind of shut themselves down and, oh, I'm just gonna grapple this guy. But at the end of the day, MMA striking is completely different from Muay Thai striking. So I think I've adjusted my style to kind of edge that in MMA striking, making it dirty, going for the takedowns, dirty boxing, all that stuff. So that's my strength. So I see. But it'll be interesting to see how he deals with that one.
Yeah, for sure. I always point to the example of Khalil Roundtree versus Gokhan Saki,
Yep. Yes.
and
Matt Brown. Matt Brown versus Wonder Boy.
that's right.
That
That's
was one
right.
of the biggest inspirations because I remember as a kid watching that fight and the hype before that fight. They're like, "Oh, this guy's like 300-0. He's the craziest striker you've ever seen." And Matt just put on a clinic. So
Yeah.
that's one of the fights I really draw to whenever I get these guys or potential guys that have better striking on a resume.
Petrosyan, he's had two fights in the UFC, a split decision win against RoboCop, and his last fight was a decision loss. What is your assessment of his run so far?
I mean, he's had a decent run. Cal kind of, you know, made the fight boring, but got the win. But I think that fight over RoboCop is huge. You know, I studied that one a lot. RoboCop obviously is on a tear, and you know he's about to maybe potentially get a ranked opponent next. You know, so the fact that Armen got through him is huge. You know, so that's one of the biggest things with this fight. I really want to have a good showing against him, win decisively, and put myself on the same level as those guys.
Did you agree with the decision? Because there was a lot of talk of, you know, RoboCop winning that fight.
I've rewatched it, and RoboCop was the aggressor, but I think in round 2 and 3 he kind of faded out a little bit and took a lot more damage than he should have. I think in the last round, like the last minute or so, he went for a takedown or something and got split or got his nose busted open. So I think Armen with volume kind of edged out that fight. I wouldn't say it was a robbery, but it was definitely close. I definitely see holes. You know, that fight was very telling. So.
What about that cut across the forehead of RoboCop? You could see the vein. That
Yeah, that was nuts. That was super deep too. You know, that's one of those things you just can't take a naked shot. You know, you always got to set that up. But he's a stallion for taking that. You know, he took it and didn't even flinch. So it'd be a good fight.
Yeah, his style is just, you know, like he'll take the damage to land his shots. You know, and it's fun to watch. You know, but will it last? That's my question. How long will that style last for him? You know, because once you reach that top 15, you got guys that are so technical that they won't even get hit. You know, because you're telegraphing everything. Like you said, you know, he didn't even set it up. He just ate it. So you know, it's good that, you know, like you delve deep into that RoboCop fight. Did you go further back, you know, before the UFC and look into his fights, and how did you, you know, what was your assessment of, you know, pre-UFC?
Yeah, I saw a couple of his older fights. But at the end of the day, with MMA, you're only as good as your last 3. So I try not to overwhelm myself too much with trying to, you know, watch every single fight. You know, you can only do so much in the last couple of years. You know what I mean? So I try to just kind of pay attention to how he's looking lately and just adjust my style for that.
All right. Do you go as deep as like looking at social media, watching their interviews? Do you do that?
I used to. I used to get really obsessed with my trying to figure out what he's doing. But at the end of the day, you know, that really just mentally drains you. You know, as long as I'm focusing on what I need to do, I'm bettering myself, I'm evolving as a fighter. It doesn't matter what the other person does.
All right. You know, you had your first setback in your debut for the promotion, right? With everything surrounding the fight, you know, how did you handle the loss in the weeks, the months after?
Yeah, that one was pretty tough, but I actually just had to sit down and be honest with myself. And at the end of the day, I really was pretty injured going into that fight. I probably shouldn't have taken it. I should have gotten surgery sooner. But you know, I've had that injury for years prior, and I'd fought on it before. So it's one of those things where it's like, I'll get the surgery next fight, next fight. So it's one of those things where I gotta have to realize that, you know, this is the UFC. I'm fighting against top opponents now, and I have to give myself the best chance.
Yeah, it's great that you have a perspective like that, right? And you can reveal now that you had the injury going into the fight. I was talking to Brendan Davison. He's on his second run with the UFC, and in his first fight back, he got knocked out in the first round, but he had a knee injury for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
And he didn't tell anybody until after that fight. So, you know, fans need to understand, you know, there's so much going on in a fighter's life.
It's hard to be like, oh, I was injured, but you got to be honest. You know, we all want to be the tough guy. We all want to be that savage, rub dirt on it, and just go and fight. But you know, at the end of the day, in a game like this, it's a game of inches, and when that 1 inch that you missed is an injury, there's nothing you can really do.
Yeah, you can. And you know, did you take care of the injury afterwards? Like, did you go to rehab? What happened?
That was the biggest thing I did. I had surgery. It was a bucket handle meniscus tear. And when I had gotten the surgery, surgery like that is usually like 15 minutes. They just go and clean it out real quick. Apparently the doctor said it took about like 40 minutes because it was I was fighting on it for so long, training on it for so long, that the loose part of the meniscus was just lodged deep in my knee. So he had to dig it out before he can even cut it out. So it's one of those things where it's like, I gotta save myself from myself sometimes and understand when to, you know, rehab, when to relax, you know. So it's just a balance now.
How did you handle being stationary? You know, you can't, you're not mobile as you want to be. You know,
Yeah.
you've been mobile your whole career. That you now you're not mobile anymore. You know, was it hard for you?
Um, it definitely was one of those things that was really weighing on my mind. But when it happened, you kind of just have to make a decision, and I just made a decision to change up my style. And if you look at my last, 3 or 4 fights, I barely did any moving. I was just kind of just saying, okay, I can't move, I can't kick like that, so I'm just gonna stay in the pocket and just throw. And
Yeah.
then you saw that in my Contender Series fight, how it was just wild, like a drunken bar fight. But it's one of those things where you push yourself to almost desperation. You're like, all right, I got to just do this. I got to just man up, suck it up, and just do it. But that can only take you so far. So
Like if you don't know what's going on, you would think like, oh, he's switched up his style now.
yeah,
He's a beggar. You know what I mean? Like people think that, or like he's lost in the moment. Like they'll infer certain things. So it's
yep,
great, man. 8 months between fights, you had the surgery, you had the recovery, you get
yeah.
back into training.
Yep.
How did you take advantage of that time before actually getting into camp?
No, so yeah, the biggest thing, and all my coaches told me, like, because of how long I've had the injury and how severe it was, I had to take the time off. I had to, and that drives every fighter crazy. You're like, oh man, like I want to train right now, I want to train, but it's one of those things where you really have to let your body heal. So I really allowed my body to heal. I did all the proper steps. I had a great strength and conditioning couple months, and then slowly got back into sparring, and then finally was able to wrestle, because I wasn't able to really wrestle hard or do jujitsu hard or road work for that matter. So I was able to get back to all those things, and it's been night and day. So I'm so excited to fight, and so excited to fight at close to 100%. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not have that
Yeah.
anxiety I'm gonna gas out or anything like that.
Gives me a whole nother perspective of like what I expect out of you, what I mean, in this fight coming up, compared to like what you did in the debut. Like what type of performance are you expecting out of yourself? Because that's the most important thing.
Honestly, I'm just hoping to be me. I'm hoping to be exciting, have another barn burner. You know what I mean? Hopefully, get fight of the night. You know what I mean? That's the one thing I dream of. I dream of the Hall of Fame fights, the fights that gets the fans exciting. Whether you win or lose, my whole thing is making sure the fans are excited. Because I was a big fan. I loved the UFC growing up as a kid. I never really watched conventional sports, so I always try to take my fights and take that into consideration when I'm fighting. I want to put on a performance that fans would love. So that's what I'm looking to do October 22nd.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes you need a couple of those to get the fans on your side, and then you become more technical and like, you show your style a little bit more,
Then I can
right?
then I can
Yeah. When did you start watching the UFC? Like how old were you?
man, I want to say so I was a big wrestling fan, and then I found out about MMA through like Ken Shamrock. Um
Mm.
and then I'd watch it here and there, but what really made me a fan was that the 2005 fight, the Forrest Griffin Stephan Bonner fight. I was flipping through,
Uh,
I saw from the second round on, and I was like, what the heck? Ever since then, I doubled down on it, and really started to become a true fan. I couldn't really stand watching football games. I couldn't stand watching basketball, and I wrestled. So it was an easy thing for me.
Is this still kind of a trip for you that you're in the UFC when
And
you like it goes back so far?
yes, every day. And I think that was the one of the things that helped me push through my injury. You know what I mean? The fact that I was so close to living out this childhood dream. So it means the world to me. The fact now that I can train at 100% and I can put my all into this, it really lights a fire under my ass.
All right, man. October 22nd, UFC 280 in Abu Dhabi. It's incredible, man. Incredible experience. It's going to be a incredible opportunity. Thank you so much, AJ, for the time. All the best in the fight.
Thank you. Thank you so much.